everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and today I found this press release by Feinstein. Or at least from the minority press. This is on the Senate Committee on the Judiciary website. And here's what she has to say. Feinstein's going to give us a little whine here. Now, this was actually on October 11th, so they were still licking their wounds after the Kavanaugh thing. I don't think she was very happy, so she had to do a little complaining. Senate Judiciary Committee ranking member Dianne Feinstein, a Democrat from California, if you don't know that, today issued the following statement on President Trump's Ninth Circuit nominees for California. Now, I don't know if you know about the Ninth Circuit. We often call it the Ninth Circus because they are just so liberal and so activist. Over 80% of their rulings have been overturned by the Supreme Court. So it's like they are almost a joke, but they can stop a lot of things. They were the ones that really put the kibosh on Trump's immigration policy there at the very beginning of his term. I repeatedly told the White House I wanted to reach an agreement on a package of Ninth Circuit nominees, but last night the White House moved forward without consulting me, picking controversial candidates from its initial list and another individual with no judicial experience who had not previously been suggested. How dare President Trump nominate a judge without her permission? I mean, serious. Dianne, what you thinking? He's the president. This is what he does. It's his choice. I met with Don McGahn, which is the president's lawyer, on June 27th to discuss the vacancies and explained that Senator Harris, that's Kamala Harris, and I strongly opposed Daniel Collins. Now, I got to tell you that the minute I saw that she strongly opposed him, I was like, ooh, I wonder what there is about this guy that she's strongly opposing. Well, I'm going to tell you in a minute. I also told him Kenneth Lee had problems because he failed to disclose to our Judicial Selection Committee's controversial writings on voting rights and affirmative action. Well, at this point, after the Kavanaugh thing, who knows what she is considering controversial writings and voting rights and affirmative action? Now, I didn't really find much on this Kenneth Lee other than he worked for Bush, but I did find some information on the Daniel Collins. Last week, a reporter contacted my office stating that multiple sources close to the White House, love those anonymous sources, said I had rejected an offer that included Lucy Coe, James Rogan, and Daniel Collins. This was false. No offer had been made or rejected, either formally or informally. In fact, as soon as I learned from the reporter about this alleged package, getting this from a reporter, I immediately wrote to Don McGahn saying I would accept this White House proposal of Lucy Coe, James Rogan, and a third nominee from the White House list. There was no response to my letter. We're going to look at the letter in a minute. The decision to move forward with these nominees without consultation or responding to my acceptance of the White House offer reflects President Trump's desire to remake the court. You bet he wants to remake it. He wants to get rid of the activist judges that are making policy and have people that are actually going to uphold our real laws. I expect my blue slips to be honored as I was acting in good faith. Oh, your righteous indignation is just overflowing here. Then just to give you a little bit of background on this, in May 2018, a month after the death of Judge Stephen Reinhart, Senators Feinstein and Harris recommended Judge Lucy Coe, Judge Andrew Guilford, and Boris Feldman for the 3 Ninth Circuit vacancies. Be interesting to look into all 3 of those because if they're recommending them, probably not going to be people who are going to rule on the law, but are activists. These candidates were the top 3 choices of Senator Feinstein's Judicial Selection Committees. Senator Feinstein's Judicial Selection Committees interviewed the 5 candidates recommended by the White House: Daniel Brest, Daniel Collins, Kenneth Lee, James Rogan, and Jeremy Rosen. So that gives you a little bit of background. Now we're going to look at her letter that she sent, and then we're going to see a little bit more information about this Daniel Collins. All the links are going to be down below just like usual. Okay, so this is her letter to Don McGahn, who is the president's counsel of the president. And she says, Dear Mr. McGahn, my office was contacted by a reporter who said he had multiple sources who said the White House has proffered an offer on the 3 California vacancies for the Ninth Circuit. Now, notice where it's coming from. First of all, it's contacted by a reporter. So she's getting her information from a reporter, not firsthand. That's interesting. We were told the White House would support a package including Judge Lucy Coe, James Rogan, and Daniel Collins. So see, it's like, oh, well, you didn't tell us those were the people you were going to support. As you know, Senator Harris and I, in May, recommended Judge Lucy Coe, Judge Andrew Guilford, and Boris Feldman, as they are well-qualified candidates and were the top 3 choices of my bipartisan judicial selection committees. So in other words, she's really ticked off because the president didn't take all of her recommendations. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Can't believe that she's surprised at that, really. Dianne, come on. He's the president. You're on the opposition team. You don't really care what he wants. While the White House rejected my initial offer, I remain hopeful that we can work together to come to consensus on a package of 3 nominees. In other words, when a Democrat says that, what that means is, I'm sure eventually you're going to come to see my side and you're going to do it my way, because that's what we put up with for the last I don't know how many years. The Republicans were always doing this. It was like the Democrats would say, well, just do this and then we'll talk. And they never talked. They didn't care about that. All they wanted to do was get their way. And we gave it to them. So I am so glad we have a president now who's not going to give in to them. And he's inspiring the rest of Congress that's working on the Republican Party to do the same thing. It needs to stop. Compromise does not mean one party gets their way all the time. As such, I am happy to agree to Lucy Coe from my list and James Rogan from the White House list and work with you on the 3rd nominee, whether it be Daniel Collins or another nominee from one of our 2 lists. Hopefully hers. That's what she really wants. She doesn't want this guy. She wants someone from her own list. I hope to work with you to resolve this matter as soon as possible. Yeah, she makes it sound like so nice. I wonder how she writes her name in Chinese. You know, why is she not being investigated for that? Is she being investigated for that? She surely should be. 20 years having a driver who was a Chinese spy? Duh. If you are that clueless, you have no business working in Congress. You just don't. I haven't really dug very deep, but I did a little bit of digging on this guy, and I came across this article by Heavy. Now, remember, when you read things that are from Heavy.com, it has a liberal bias, so keep that in mind as you're reading. Anyway, Trump's 5 appeals court judge nominees, 5 fast facts you need to know. Now, remember what we just read. One of the reasons that the Democrats are so upset about this is when these people are appointed, it's for life. It's kind of like Supreme Court. It's for life. And the reasoning behind that with our founding fathers was so judges didn't have to keep running campaigns. And that way it kept them from being political. Supposedly. So this talks about his nominations, and we'll go on down here to where they are. You can read about the others and what districts are being appointed to. Then we go down to number 4 is this one. The others are interesting to read too, but Daniel P. Collins of California nominated to serve as a circuit judge on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. Now, this is a really important court because, like I said, they have a tendency to cause a lot of problems because their rulings are liberal activist rulings. That means they're trying to make law instead of ruling according to what the law already says. And pretty much everybody on our West Coast is in this region, so it's affecting all of them. And this is why liberals have been able to get so much passed, because they have these guys on the court. But remember, 80% of their rulings have been overturned by the Supreme Court, so they really do not have a good track record at all. Well, let's go down here and find out who this guy is. He's argued 36 cases in the Ninth and California Supreme Court. But look what it says here. Before joining this firm, Collins served as an Associate Deputy Attorney General at DOJ. Associate Deputy Attorney General is pretty high up. like it'd be under Rosenstein, so it'd be like third or fourth along in there. He worked extensively on the prosecutorial remedies and other tools to end the exploitation of children today. That was called Protect, Act of 2003, which included provisions to combat child pornography and child abuse and to reform federal sentencing laws. Now, for those of you who may not be Q followers, you may not understand the connections, but many of these senators and congressmen in California are involved in human trafficking. And so having somebody in there who is very good at combating child pornography and child abuse could be somebody that really is going to stand against them. And Dianne is part of this. I don't know exactly the connection with her, but I do know that California is the #1 state for human trafficking, and the #1 district, by the way, is Adam Schiff's. So that should tell us something too. But Dianne has her hand in this as well. She's part of it, whether she has enabled them or received funds from them, whatever the case is, she's part of this too. So this could be a very big threat for her. Have this particular man on there, because then he might rule on something that will be affecting the human trafficking trade, and that would probably affect her pocket. So that might be why she's against him. There's one other possibility as to why she'd be against him, and that's down here, that he clerked for SCOTUS Justice Scalia. So that means he's probably very conservative. And again, they don't want conservatives on this court because the way it is now, it has a lot of liberals. And that has allowed them to get a lot of liberal policies passed through the courts instead of actually going through legislation. This is how they skirt around getting actual laws made. They have their judges rule on it in the courts, and then, hey, well, that's what the court said. But again, the Supreme Court has overturned 80% of their rulings. But notice what it says here. All are men, 3 are Asian. Well, Lucy was one of them Trump nominated. Appears to me that Lucy is a girl's name, isn't it, still? I mean, it's hard to tell these days sometimes, but as far as I know, it still does. Anyway, that's what I had for you today, but I have one more thing I want to tell you. I want to take you to my Patreon page, not to ask for money. I'm not asking for money. What I want to show you is all that you can access without ever logging in, without even having a Patreon account. You'll be able to see everything I'm going to show you. I can put in videos. This was a video I watched on the NSA and some of their cybersecurity things that they were talking about. This article is about the Christian news site. I don't know if you've heard of them losing their website. The company that was hosting their site pulled the rug out from under them. They had like 12 hours to find some new place. Very interesting article there. Silencing Conservatives is my comment that I made about it, and you can read that. You can see everything. I'm not logged in. This is exactly what you'll see when you go there. There are a very few posts that are for patrons only, and the only way you can do that is by becoming a patron, but you don't have to become a patron for the majority of things. Oh, by the way, you got to go see this one. This is a link to a Twitter thread, and in it he had this video. This is hysterical because it's like taking cuts out of all the mainstream media, and they're like, this is the end of Trump. Trump is doomed. This is a bombshell about Trump. And it's funny. You really have to see that video. It's hysterical. And then down here we have the one where Trump is talking about the executive order that Trump wants to do to stop anchor babies. That's going to make the liberals' heads like spin right around. That's going to be fun. And then down here, that's the heavy article that I just showed you. And Feinstein down here. Basically what I'm doing is when I do my research in the mornings, I'm putting the links that I'm coming across over here. They may or may not appear in a video, and sometimes there's not quite enough there, or it's a path I don't want to go down to do a video about, but I thought it was interesting and I wanted to share it with you. So that's what this is, and that's one of my videos, if you haven't seen that one yet. This one, I have no idea why it has money here, but check out the title. An 11-year-old changed election results on a replica Florida state website in under 10 minutes. That's an eye-opener, really. And that was by PBS, too. This is what you're going to see here. That's that video from the assassin. And so I'm trying to collect things that are of interest to the people that view my channel. In a way, it's kind of like a blog. So you can go through every morning. I'll be adding some more in here. And you can go through and you can read them yourself. You can see what kinds of things I've been going through. Some of them I'm picking up from the 8chan boards. And by the way, I think what I'm going to do with the Cruise and the Notables is on Wednesdays, I'll do a public one for everybody to see. And then on Fridays or Saturdays, I haven't decided which, I'll do one for my patrons. Okay? So everybody will be able to see the one that I do on Wednesdays. So that's what I wanted to show you. The Patreon page is going to be kind of like a blog for me where I put my research, a research blog. So as I find articles that are interesting or that have to do with politics today, or I just think they're weird or whatever, this is where I'm going to put them. I do that sometimes for my friends on Facebook, but not everybody's my friend on Facebook. So I'm trying to get it out here so more people can see it. Because for me as a retired teacher, this is the important thing. I'm gathering things that maybe you don't have the time to go out and find, and I'm putting them together in a place where you can come and read them yourself and then disseminate it to other people. Getting this information out there is what the whole Q movement is about. Getting information that we may not normally see out to the public so everybody becomes better informed. Well, that's all I had for today. Thanks for stopping by. See you later.